Yahoo! Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love, to Astro Fenixx, flying into the moment yet again and radiating love, as always. And in this video, we are going to be covering the full moon in Scorpio. That is going to be taking place, well, depending upon the time I upload this, today, May 18th. It'll be around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and as you can tell by the title of this video, we are at a major endpoint, but also the start of a whole new adventure, the start of a whole new narrative. This full moon of Scorpio is going to be perhaps one of the most powerful lunar events of the year outside of the eclipses. And the reason why I say that, well, there are multiple reasons why I say that. But, what is that Scorpio energy? Scorpio it's ruled by the Phoenix. It's the death and rebirth. It's these darker tones, kind of hidden. It's the underworld. And what's coming out of this underworld is kind of interesting, because this is going to be not just bringing out things from this past new moon in Taurus that we had, but this is also going to be bringing out aspects from a former new moon in Scorpio. Essentially, we haven't had a full moon in Scorpio, with Uranus also being in Taurus, so the sun's in Taurus. We haven't had an event like this since 1942. It's been a long time, guys. It's been a long time since we've had this energy. But this energy is a little bit different from back then. For one, when we had the full moon in Scorpio while Uranus was in Taurus back in 1942, it was April 30th, Uranus was actually in its shadow period. So Uranus had ingressed into Gemini the year before, and then it retrograded back into Taurus. And when Uranus went direct and came forward, that's when we had the full moon. What was interesting about that full moon was that it was literally at the tail end of the degrees. It was at 29 degrees. What was also interesting about that was the fact that Uranus was conjunct Saturn. Saturn was also in Taurus at 29 degrees. So we already are getting this sort of energy where we are in many ways doing a bit of a recap of the events that have taken place since 1942. Other things that are interesting about that particular time was that Mercury was in Taurus, Venus was actually in Pisces, and the nodes were in Virgo and Pisces respectively. The north node was in Virgo, the south node was in Pisces along with Venus. There was also a T-square, where you had the sun in Taurus, you had the moon in Scorpio, and you also had Chiron in Leo. So the sun at that time was actually at 9 degrees Taurus, the moon was at 9 degrees Scorpio, and Chiron was at 8 degrees of Leo. So we had this T-square between fixed energy. But this was the last full moon that we actually had in Scorpio, with Uranus also being present in Taurus. Albeit, like I said, it was conjunct Saturn at the last degrees. So, and to even back up a little bit further, the year previous we had even a larger stellium in Taurus. In 1941, Saturn was there, the Sun was there, Mercury, Venus, Uranus, and Jupiter were all in Taurus. So, this is a very, very powerful full moon that we are having on this day, because Uranus in Taurus already doesn't like to be there. Uranus is the sky god, and now he's on Earth, kind of grounded to Earth. I like to think of Uranus in Taurus as the renewal of vows between the sky god Uranus and Mother Earth Gaia. What's even more interesting about this particular one is that Venus is going to be in Taurus for this full moon at 4 degrees, and Uranus is going to be here as well, actually at the tail end of that 3rd degree. So Venus and Uranus will be conjunct for this full moon. And this even brings more to light that whole renewal of vows. So if you think about this Venus energy, especially being a Taurus, it does give off this sort of Mother Gaia kind of energy. It does give off this kind of Mother Earth kind of vibes. And this is going to really create within you a sort of new way at looking at your self-worth, and new way at relating to your value. And with with full moons are always a time of release. So we are going to be releasing a lot of this energy along this Taurus Scorpio axis. Now, there's nothing in Scorpio right now besides the moon. So that's kind of the nice thing about this, is that we went through a lot of that heavy scorpionic energy these past few years. But Jupiter was there. Even though Jupiter is a pretty positive planet, being in Scorpio is like you could really expand on the dark just as much as you could expand on the light and purity side of Scorpio. And then, of course, several years back, we had Saturn come to this space. So this full moon is taking into account all of that energy, but also, like I said, all of that energy from the previous years. From the early 40s and onwards. Now, during the 40s, early 40s, that was World War II. So, what I feel is happening with this full moon is that it really is a curtain call. It really is this is really a time where, like, the old play is ending, and now it is time that all of the actors comes out on stage, and they get the applause, and they bow, and they thank the crowd for coming, and now it's time to put on the next show. And now it's time to put on the next drama, because the world is a drama. Let's get real. The world is definitely a drama. It really is. This is a major release point. Anytime you have a full moon, it's about releasing, and it's also that sign is being lit up. It's really being put in our face. So this is definitely going to be a weekend where you want to be careful. And I say that because this is a weekend where I definitely I have this feeling that it's going to be kind of a wild weekend out there with like parties and in my head I heard drunken behavior, but this is going to be one of those full moons. This is going to be one of those weekends that, it's going to be very, very memorable for a lot of people, for all of us really. But, for those who decide to go out and go to the club and go dancing and all that sort of stuff, it's definitely going to be a fun weekend, but it's also going to be kind of one of those weekends where it's just going to be so, to put it bluntly, like fucking memorable. Just because of how potent these energies are, and how we really are stepping into this whole new world, and this whole new quality of ourself, this whole new quality of our being. And it's going to be interesting, because I think people are going to kind of underestimate this weekend and underestimate this full moon. I think we're all underestimating the power of this full moon. This is going to be, of course, like I said, the first full moon in Taurus, with Uranus also being here, that we're going to have for the next 6 years. We're going to get this energy for the next 6 years. What's also interesting about this full moon is that Mercury is involved. Mercury is in Taurus at 24 degrees, so it's within a 3-degree orbit of the Sun, and of course the Sun is a large energy, so there's definitely going to be a lot of communication and a lot of conversations surrounding value, worth, what am I doing here? What am I contributing to the world? What can I do that's different too? Because Mercury would have conjuncted Uranus before going into this point. So what can I do differently? How can I act differently? What's something else that I can do? How can I really see myself in new and fresh ways? As Mercury catches up to the Sun, and they're going to be conjunct, of course, at 0 degrees of Gemini, coming up here very shortly. So this is, and when that Mercury and Sun meet up in Gemini, that's when you meet the new cast. That's when you meet the new characters. That's when you find out who's going to be in the play with you from that point on. That's going to be at 0 degrees, so a very powerful, potent degree. but we have this full moon here at the tail end of Scorpio. So a lot of your darkness is going to be revealed right now. A lot of your psychological hang-ups are really going to come through here, and I'm getting like this real sense that a lot of this is going to be surrounding, you know, really just the love that we see in the world. Because, you know, what's interesting also about this, and I'm not showing you guys this, I'm just recording my voice, and I have a reason for doing that, but what's interesting also about this is that we do have an asteroid that moves fairly quickly, but it's a minor asteroid, and this asteroid is known as Amor. And for those of you who do not know, Amor in, you know, Spanish means love. And the asteroid Amor is going to actually be at 26 degrees of Taurus. So it's going to be conjunct the sun. And this asteroid represents love. But more so than that, it represents the conditions that one places on love. It represents the challenges that we have with unconditional love. So to have this asteroid in Taurus conjunct the sun, and the sun, you know, ruled by Leo. When I think of Leo, I think about loving love for love's sake alone. That's what Leos do. Leos love love for love's sake alone. And to have these two energies with each other in Taurus during this time means that we are releasing a lot of these conditions that we have placed on unconditional love. This is for the unconditional love that we have for ourselves and for others. I say primarily with ourselves because it's with the sun. So, but we are going to be releasing a lot of these outdated beliefs of what we thought love was. A lot of this is going to be released. So you're going to feel, especially as the week continues, and especially as Mercury and the Sun come together, and as Venus continues its transit throughout Taurus, you're really going to start to feel that your whole idea of what love is, and your whole idea of how you express this love through your actions and through what you manifest, a lot of this is going to shift forever. Do not be surprised this week. Like, this is going to be the kind of weekend where you're going to see people kind of wake up in their relationships. They're really just going to wake up, because Venus is, of course, a sign of relationships, and it's being in Taurus, so it's, of course, not close to the sun, but it's still affecting it. It's still affecting all this energy. And what else is interesting about this, concerning, you know, how this full moon differs from the last full moon in Scorpio that we had, while Uranus was also present in Taurus with the sun, was the fact that the outer planets were different. Neptune was actually in Virgo retrograde at the time, and Pluto was in Leo. Now we have Pluto in the upper degrees of Capricorn, and Neptune is in its opposite sign, in its home sign of Pisces. So back then, one of the huge themes was how we were deconstructing the whole idea of love, but with in Leo. But this had to do with love of country. This had to do with the love of the state. This had to do with the love of, in many ways, the kingdom. Because, you know, when you think of Leo, you think of the kingdom energy, a queendom energy. You think of the state. You think of those sort of aspects. So there's been a shift here, because now Pluto is in Capricorn, and Capricorn does in many ways rule society, and we can see how things have progressed to this point. So there is now a breakdown within our society now, as we see, and with Neptune being in Pisces, what's different from this full moon from that one is that back then, Neptune was in Virgo, which it doesn't like to be in. It'd much rather be in its home sign of Pisces. So when it came to reality, it really did seem kind of otherworldly. But, you know, that's when we were in the middle of a war. We were in the middle of a world war, the Second World War. So, and the North Node was with, you know, Neptune in Virgo. So it even made this more real. People were more apt to, you know, take on that kind of Virgoan energy, but with Neptune, of course, added to the mix of that full moon, it really was people were really absorbed into, you know, what they believe to be true and how they really feel that, you know, in many ways they were really absorbed into the procedure of things. They really were absorbed into those kind of standards. Now Neptune's in Pisces, so this whole war is kind of making it, this whole war on love, because this really is a war on love, it's shifting. Now that Neptune's in Pisces, our dreams are in many ways bigger, and they're breaking out of the norms and the constraints of the Virgo energy. Even though Virgo is mutable, it's still Earth. So it does take on this earthy kind of solid quality, even though it's mutable. Now that Neptune is Pisces, it's far more etheric, which means that honestly, the playing field it's so much more vast. It's so much more vast now. And with Pluto being in Capricorn, there's kind of more to lose now. And it's coming from a more of a physical place of what we could lose, and also kind of what we can gain. There are other kinds of structures that are being broken down right now with this energy. This full moon is going to be semi-sextiling Pluto and Saturn. Saturn's going to be at 20 degrees. Pluto's going to be at 23 degrees of Capricorn respectively. So it's going to be semi-sextiling it. So there's this sort of interesting quality where when I say a semi-sextile, it's sort of like it's one party. When you think of a sextile, it has the word sex in it. So in order to have sex, you need two parties, unless you can reproduce by budding like sponges. But still, even in that case, there has to be some sort of condition that is met. So with this moon making a semi-sextile over to this Capricorn energy, it's already making a semi-sextile leading up to this full moon. There's this quality of this whole meet me halfway there, meet me there, like halfway. And there could be this feeling where some people don't want to meet their dreams, their goals, and their aspirations, and the version of themselves that they really want to come into. There's this sort of quality where some people may not want to meet halfway, and that probably has a lot to do with, this Chiron energy as well. We have Chiron in Aries, so with this energy prevalent with the Chiron energy, which is making the semi-sextile over to Venus and Uranus, mind you. So there's this whole element of people don't necessarily want to sacrifice who they are to meet their dreams halfway, but what's happening is that who they are is changing fundamentally forever. So it's like you really want to take your time with this full moon, and it's going to be a deeply processing full moon. With it being at the edge of Scorpio, it does start to feed into a bit of the Sagittarian kind of quality and kind of energy. What's interesting also about this is, actually, I meant to say it's actually sextiling, because the moon's actually going to be sextiling the Capricorn energy. So there is this opportunity to actually meet in the middle. But what's interesting is that in between we have the galactic center point. The galactic center point is in Sagittarius at 27 degrees. So this moon will be semi-sextiling the galactic center point, which the galactic center point is going to be semi-sextiling all this Capricorn energy with the South Node, Saturn, and Pluto. Even though the degrees are a little bit far away, there's still this budding, there's still this building energy, and you also of course have Jupiter making that semi-sextile over to these energies as well. So there's this feeling where we are going to be presented with a great opportunity to really grow and evolve and really push forward, but this really is going to require a deeper belief in ourselves, because Jupiter is in between the moon and Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node. And with the galactic center point, this is really, whenever the moon crosses the galactic center point, this is really an update to our mission. So we are getting a serious update to our mission, but before we even get this update, we have to release all of this psychological trauma over the past 80 plus years, because like I said, we haven't had a full moon in Scorpio with Uranus also being in Taurus. What's interesting about Uranus and Taurus, because Uranus rules the collective in many ways. It rules big masses of people, and with it being in Taurus, I like to almost think of this as like, first of all, we're kind of in a timeout. Gods are kind of putting us in a timeout. I don't think there's really going to be a lot of space exploration right now. I don't think we're allowed to, honestly, with Uranus being in Taurus. I really don't. I think this is a time for us to work our shit out. This is really going to be a time for us to work our shit out here on Earth. And, you know, we can dream about space and going to Mars and going back to the moon and maybe going past Mars and all this stuff like that. And we may be getting all of these images from these telescopes that are out there, but it's not like we can go anywhere. So I think there may be this sort of energy where we may be like kind of fantasizing about escaping, but we really can't run away. We have to face our issues. We have to face things head on. We have to process things. So this is going to be a great full moon for processing these deep, darker aspects, but also coming more into the purity of who we are, because that's really what Scorpio is. It's a very pure energy. It's about, you know, yeah, it is about destruction and death in many ways, but it's through that destruction and death that more is reborn, that more comes through. It's really just the beginning of a new. So you are going to come out of this full moon really feeling new. This is going to be, it's almost going to be this, it's this sort of metamorphosis where we like eating and eating and eat. I'm thinking of a caterpillar. You know how a caterpillar, it eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats. You know, the sun, you know, think of it like at this point, we're sort of in the cocoon and we're about to break forth. When this full moon comes out, when it comes to its climax, to its apex, that's really going to be the moment where we actually, where the cocoon or the pupa begins to shake and we start to burst out of this little stage of all this and all of these energies, all of this information that we have taken in, and we're now it's being reshaped and remorphed so we can emerge from this cocoon and fly away into the future, fly away into the new world, into the new us. And it can be scary because it's like, you know, I mean, there's unless caterpillars go to school like we do and they sit in a classroom and there's other caterpillars there and there's a butterfly at like the head of the classroom and it's saying, all right, so what you're going to do is you're going to eat, you're going to eat, you're going to eat, you're going to eat. Then you're just going to stop suddenly. Okay, you're going to stop suddenly. You're going to find a spot. You're going to wrap yourself with all that food that you ate into this cocoon. Your body's going to melt down and then you're going to turn into a butterfly. I'm pretty sure the caterpillars will all freak out because that sounds kind of scary, right? So I don't think caterpillars are really doing that. I don't think you'll just like walk around in the forest and you'll see like 20 caterpillars just chilling on a giant leaf somewhere and there's a butterfly there like preaching to them or talking to them, right? So there's this sort of there is a bit of a kind of a risk involved here. There's a bit of a scariness involved here. And of course, as far as the metaphor as the caterpillars, I think that's just natural. It's just in them to do that. And it's a faith. There's a lot of faith that's going along with this full moon because this is really stepping into this whole new world, a whole new quality. By the time that we get another full moon here in Scorpio with Uranus also being in Taurus, Uranus is going to be at a higher degree. So we really are stepping into some intense, crazy new energies. And you got to think, last year we did have a new moon in Taurus with Uranus being here, but we didn't have the full moon. The moon had already passed that spot by the time we got to the new moon. So considering last year's Taurus, Sun in Taurus new moon, and this year's Sun in Taurus new moon, which we just recently had, we've had 2 new moons since the last full moon in Scorpio with the Sun also being a Taurus. So we're almost getting, we almost had like this, we had this thing where it's like we got a new moon, so it's a new start, a fresh new start. We got that last year. Then we got one this year. Now we're going to be releasing. So we're going to be releasing a lot of this energy from 2017 into 2018, and now we're going to be releasing a lot of this energy from 2018 into 2019 to this moment. Not to mention all of the years before that. So there's going to be a lot here. So you really do kind of want to pace yourself this weekend. It is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a very beautiful full moon. I think it's going to provide us this great opportunity to really find more of ourselves, to really come into our higher self. And it is a bit scary because there's really no manual for this. There's no answers in the back of the book on how to really live this life. But we all go through moments where we go through this deep metamorphosis. So that's what this full moon is. It's a deep metamorphosis, and we're not necessarily being taught on how to create the cocoon, how much food, quote unquote, we need to eat before we decide to make this cocoon. We're just kind of doing it. We're just kind of doing it. Now it's coming through the breakthrough point. Now is the moment where we're going to break free and fly away. And I want to read for you all from my book. This is Inside the Degrees by Elias Lonsdale. This is a great, amazing resource. You can actually find it online if you just type in Inside the Degrees, Elias Lonsdale on Google, and there's actually, I think it's like one of the first links that comes up. You can actually read all of these. I bought the book because it's just an incredible resource. I refer to it a lot. But I want to read to you all 27 Degrees of Scorpio, because this really does kind of hammer home just what's going on here. So it says 3 blue robin eggs. That's the title for Scorpio 27 Degrees. Holding inside you a complete future vision, preserving and guarding a limitless awareness of what can be and of what shall be. You feel so pervasively the impact of what you carry inside that each piece of it now becomes supercharged with meaning and archetypal power beyond how it might seem to anybody else. Being in the preliminary stages of something so vast and staggering that even these stages feel momentous beyond conception. Just about bowled over by future destiny, the personal self of now is cast into shadow, seeming trivial, a throwaway, but so transported by prenatal resolves to go all the way this time that any sacrifice or difficulty is chalked up to necessary stages of rough process. And the inner mind holds its lodestar in view and simply cooks inside until it's time to boil over. If that doesn't represent this full moon, like cooking inside, like literally, like who we are is breaking down and is becoming this weird concoction of experiences and journeys and mush and DNA and all this stuff, and it's going to reshape and reform into a butterfly, and then we can fly away. But that's what this is. And we each and every single one of us has that vision inside of us to really express our limitless self. And that can be scary. It can be scary to step into the limitless, because it is limitless. You can't conceive of how massive and huge that is. It's kind of crazy, actually. So be prepared for this full moon to, like I said, it's a curtain call. It's done. We are moving to the next stage. We are moving to the next play. We put on this play year after year after year after year, and now it's finally time to, put on another production. Taurus is very much so the producer of the zodiac. It is very much so the production. Whereas Capricorn in many ways distributes it and kind of creates some sort of organization, Taurus is very much so that raw, fixed production. So we are coming into a new production. You are coming into this new version of yourself that is really kind of unlike anything that you've really expressed before. And it's beautiful, it's magical, and yeah, it can be scary because you're going to go through changes, and your situation is going to change. The people that you interact with are going to change. You're going to really start to see it, especially when the Sun and Mercury conjunct in Gemini. At 0 degrees, that's where you're really going to start to see, like many of you are going to probably many of you, like your angels and guides are, some of them are going to make their like they've been with you this whole time, but many of them are going to make themselves known to you for the first time over the next week. That's going to be something that happens, but in order for us to do that, we have to go through this clearing. In order for us to attract the next stage, the next journey, the next people, the next storylines, we have to go through this purge. We have to go through this release. And that's really what this full moon is all about. And I don't think I really have much else to say, but I really do appreciate you all joining me. There's a good chance that I'm going to go live in the morning and draw cards for the 12 signs. I'm not quite sure. It really honestly depends on how early I wake up, because at the time right now it's just past midnight. So if I wake up early enough, because I also wanted to exercise in the morning, but you know, depending upon how it goes, I'm gonna draw cards for the 12 signs. And if not, I'll probably just do it tomorrow night. I might go live tomorrow night and just do like a tarot card pull for the 12 signs for this full moon. I myself am a Scorpio, 24 degrees, so this is kind of hitting pretty close to home for me. And yeah, I wish you all the best, and I definitely wish that you all radiate love. And you know, take some time over this weekend to process. Take some time this weekend to put your hands on your heart and smile and just sort of, you know, just thank the universe, thank God, Goddess, Source, whatever that you really go to. Just take time to hold space for gratitude. Like seriously, hold some space for gratitude this weekend, because you know, I mean, I like to think of Taurus as gratitude. In a sense, because I mean, it is this fixed earth. It does deal with the self-worth and the value, and does deal with the physical, material goods and all this sort of stuff. Sure, but I like to think of this Taurus energy as, you know, gratitude. So take some time this weekend to show gratitude, even if it's for something simple. This is fixed earth, so take some time over the weekend to show gratitude for like a cup of coffee. Or have gratitude for just like the small things in life. You know, if you receive a nice little gift or token, just show gratitude for that. This is going to be a very powerful weekend for gratitude. If there's a moment this weekend where you kind of are starting to feel a little bit too dark and kind of, well, this is Scorpio saying too dark is like it's kind of funny, but you know, if you ever find a moment where you're kind of like going off the edge a bit, just pause and, you know, be grateful for the small things. Reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a while. Let them know how much you appreciate them being in your life. I promise you that's going to be really powerful too, as we build up to this Sun-Mercury conjunction in Gemini. But, you know, and one of the things that I've been doing is I've been placing my hands on my heart. I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. So I will place my hands on my heart. I will take a deep breath. And I would say something like the following. Thank you so much for this moment. Thank you so much for this beautiful day. Thank you so much for allowing me to rise again. I ask for the strength, courage, and bravery to move through this day with ease, grace, and flow. I ask for the strength, courage, and bravery to confront and take on any challenges that may present themselves today, and to move through them the best way possible, with beauty, with grace, with joy, and with love. Thank you so much for all of the things that you've given to me, all of the people that I have met, all of the beautiful journeys I have been on, and will continue to move forward through. I'm so grateful for all of these beautiful things. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this day. Thank you for the sun, the moon, the stars, plants, the trees, the water, the oceans, the mountains, the animals, and all the beings that inhabit this earth. Thank you so much for all these things. Thank you. And something kind of like that. You know, of course, you can remix it. I always remix it. I don't necessarily say the same exact thing every time, but a practice like that would be very powerful, especially if you can manage to do that every day. But anyways, that's going to be it for this transit talk about this full moon in Scorpio, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Hope that you all utilize these energies to the best of your ability, and I'm excited to see you on the other side of this metamorphosis. Although I might make another video before the apex, but I'm excited to see what comes of this. This is amazing, stepping into a whole new world, a whole new play, a whole new vision. This is incredible, and we're all geniuses. But anyways, I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. If you like this video, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel. Check out my other videos, my other content. If you'd like to get a reading with me, you can always get in touch with me via my website, the description below at astrofenixx.com. And as always, my beautiful brothers and sisters, always remember to keep moving forward, to stay focused, and Yahoo! Smile often.